What's up, YouTube? This is Big Mike. All right, in this video, I'm going to ask a question. I like to get the opinion of my subscribers, but I want to ask you, when do you think Michael Jordan began to decline as a basketball player? And of course, I think this is probably going to be for people who've actually watched him play. But even people who didn't watch him play live, you guys have seen enough footage. When do you think he began to decline, in your opinion? This is my opinion. I think his athletic peak was probably 84 when he came into the league to about maybe 90 or so. That's when he was the most explosive, in my opinion. He had his greatest vertical leaping ability. This is when he would just seemingly had boundless amounts of energy and just could dunk at will throughout the game. After being beaten up by the Pistons in the playoffs, and he began to, lift weights and gain a little bit of weight. I think he probably came into the NBA wing about 188, 189 pounds. Probably played between 190 and 195 during this period of time. He began implementing weightlifting and, in his routine at this particular time, and he got stronger, and he was able to withstand punishment, and he was an even better finisher. But on the flip side, I thought that it caused him to become a wee bit less explosive athletically. I think around this time, the early three-peat years, he was about 198 to maybe 205 or so. I would say his vertical leap may have decreased a tad from 48 inches to maybe about 45 inches, 44, 45 inches. And he was a little tick less explosive, in my opinion. But the first year where I could truly see a decline in his athletic ability, now I'm not talking about him as a skill set as a basketball player because it's different, but a decline in his athletic ability would be the 92-93 season. This was after the Olympics. This was after that long playoff campaign in the 92 playoffs. Those of you who remember watching the Bulls during the 92-93 season will remember that was the first year where you'll be watching the Bulls and you're like, wow, Michael's a little bit boring this year. Aside from a couple of games, he had some monster dunks on Alonzo Mourning. He didn't dunk much that year, and that led to speculation that he was beginning to decline as a basketball player. He did cross 30 years of age that year. He took that as a challenge in the finals, and you guys will probably remember that there was various games in the finals where he drove the basket like a madman. But after he retired and he came back in 95, you could clearly see that he wasn't the same player athletically. He had declined even further. I would say that his vertical leap was maybe more around 39, 40 inches, maybe in 95. And the next year, the 72 campaign, Michael had a great season, but I remember him being probably, it's odd, this is just my opinion, but oddly enough, 96, 97, 98, Michael arguably was less explosive in 96. I think he played that season around 217 or 18 pounds. It was probably the heaviest he had ever been as a Bull. Now, he was a little bit bigger as a Wizard, but I'm not counting that. He was 217, 218 during that season. And I remember him not getting up as high in the air as I remember normally seeing him. Like I say, he still had crazy athleticism. I would say he had a 36-inch vertical or something like that around that time. But the weight, like I said, did hurt him as far as his explosiveness is concerned to an extent. And anyway, Michael was evolving into becoming almost a perimeter dominant basketball player who rarely drove to the basket. Only when his team needed him to do something like that did he do it sparingly throughout games. The next year, Michael played a little bit lighter, 208, 207. And you could see, despite the fact he was 34 years old, that he was quicker that season than he was a year prior. But by 1998, his athleticism was clearly diminishing. And there were many times when I saw him, a guy who had unbelievable footwork on the basketball court for so many years, was starting to lose it a little bit. I remember him slipping at times when he hadn't done so before. And I remember him, I remember a couple times that year, him not finishing at the basket on shots that 5 or 6 years earlier would have been routine. But that's just my opinion. The Wizard years, he was so far gone athletically, man. The fact that he was able to put up 20 and 23 points per game during those seasons was just a testament to his basketball skill that was still evident, and perhaps even testament to how great he was in his prime, that he was still able to put up 20-some points a game. Ron Artest stated that he thought that had Michael Jordan not had suffered the rib injury during 2001 during the workouts, getting ready to come back to basketball, Ron Artest, this isn't my words, this isn't just my opinion. Ron Artest, of course, now Metta World Peace, said that he thinks that had Jordan not suffered that rib injury, which took him back so much, and the subsequent knee injuries, he thinks that Michael would have led the league in scoring again. I've heard that. I've heard people say that before the rib injury, Michael looked like Michael. Not quite as athletic, but with the repertoire that he had prior to his second retirement. But it took something out of him coming out from the rib injury. But tell me what you guys think, man. When do you think that Michael Jordan began to decline as a basketball player?